Hello friends and welcome back to the channel where today I'm going to walk you through how I completed the third and final chapter in the brand new Wheel of Fate quest that just came out last week. Now chapter 3 I think is the easiest of the three quests. Of course you have to get through the first two in order to get here, so your difficulty level may vary depending on your roster. Now if you watched either of the first two parts of the guides in this series, you already know this, but I'm not going to show you the entirety of every fight, just enough of it so that you get a good idea of the strategy that I'm using with my chosen attacker, and then of course we'll also talk through the alternate champs that I have listed here as well. So let's start off with this GORR, which you can actually cheese with any Juggernaut. Rank 1, Rank 2, Rank 3, doesn't really matter. So the strategy with Juggernaut here is you want to get up to max momentum, and then you want a special 3, and that's going to stun GORR, and that'll leave him in the corner with you right next to him. And following the special 3, you want to do 3 heavies, which will apply staggers. Then you want a full combo before that stun wears off, and that should put you back at a special 3. Now you do want to have some points in Mystic Dispersion to make this work. 4 points will probably get by, but ideally you want 5 out of 5 points. And if you don't already have Mystic Dispersion maxed out, you really should consider doing so. So Juggernaut's heavies, as you can see, apply staggers, and these staggers are going to eat the regen buffs that he triggers when you hit into him, and that's really going to prevent him from healing up as you get, additional health down. Those regens get really strong toward the end of the fight, so you have to consistently eat them with the staggers. In addition, Juggernaut has a chance to nullify buffs. I think that is from his SIG. You can still safely use him unduped in this fight, I think. The SIG is going to help, just from giving you a chance to nullify buffs on his basic hits that you're doing after those 3 heavies. Yeah, really, really easy fight. My Juggernaut is only a rank 2, so I think this was like a 4-minute fight maybe. Rank 3 obviously going to have a much faster time in here, and you're going to more easily outdamage any of the regens that do sneak through here. But I'm pretty confident like even a rank 1 can do this. Unduped, duped rank 1, probably going to take a bit longer, but I'm pretty confident that he can do this as well. Let's talk through some of the other options here. Not a lot of good ones for this fight outside of Juggernaut. If you really have a Juggernaut, you should just use him. Original Scarlet Witch is an option here. Very, very exclusive champ. I think she was only available to high-ranking players in the Alliance War season a few seasons back. So it's likely that you don't have her, and if you do have her, you also have Juggernaut. But I'm putting on here her on here just for thoroughness. But she has a chance to nullify on crits and can more or less outdamage his regen with like a big special 2. The other option I have listed here is Classic Spider-Man, who a couple of my friends used for this fight. And with him, the idea is you really just want to take advantage of the Despair Mastery in order to prevent GORR from healing up too much. And then you can basically play the fight as normal. So with Spidey, you obviously want to stay aggressive, keep your webbing up, keep your debuffs up, because if you lose those debuffs and he starts to sneak through some healing, it's going to extend the fight by quite a bit. But again, going back to the start of this fight, if you have a Juggernaut, any rank, duped or unduped, he's pretty much the easiest and best option for this fight. And again, this is the first fight in the quest, so if you don't solo, just restart. There's really no need to do revives on this fight, unless you really get down to 2% and die somehow, and then you just don't want to go through the effort of it again. Alright, moving on to fight number 2 against this Dazzler. You probably already know how this fight works by now, given that this is the 3rd time you've fought her, but I'll cover it briefly anyways. Whenever you gain a bar of power, you're giving her these dynamo charges, and then knocking her down converts those charges into power gain. So if you're using a champ like Serpent with passive power gain, you're going to be granting her more of those dynamo charges, so knocking her down is actually going to get more dangerous. Now Serpent is probably the fastest option of the 3 quests. Like the first 2 quests, these Dazzler fights were really, really long, really, really tedious. But Serpent has very, very good damage. Doesn't rely on crits, which Dazzler is going to reduce. So he can get this fight down in a reasonable amount of time. Now that being said, it really took me a minute to kind of get into a rhythm with Serpent here. Because I didn't want to get to a point where I was consistently pushing her to the special 2, because I don't really know the full decks, and I didn't want to take too many of them on the block because I knew that I wouldn't survive the fight that way. So what I'm trying to do here is wait until I'm between a bar and 2 bars of power, and then I'm knocking her down when she's around half of a bar of power, not too much more than that. And then the 2 dynamo charges that she's going to convert from getting knocked down will push her to about a bar and a half, and then kind of rinsing and repeating. So with Serpent, once you kind of get into that rhythm with him, he is really going to be an easy option for this fight. Let's talk quickly about the other options. I sat on the champ swap screen for several minutes just staring at my RM Zola, thinking about if he would be like much better or faster for this fight. So if you end up using Zola for this fight, please let me know. He's a tech champ, so he doesn't have the crit damage reduction that Dazzler applies to everybody else, which is really nice. And his suppressions, his play style, I think lends himself to this fight pretty well. But in the end, I just kind of went with like the safest option. And Serpent is a champion that I'm very, very comfortable playing. I'm still kind of new to playing Zola on offense, so I just went with him. Hyperion, similar, not issues, but similar kind of strategy with Hyperion that you would use for Serpent. His power gain is a little bit stronger, so you're going to have to do like more frequent knockdowns with the special one and really manage your power gain like a lot better. In addition, you could probably just skip specials with Hyperion and like stick to heavies. And once you're sitting at 3 bars of power, and you can like parry heavy and get those fury buffs, your damage will still ramp. You will lose access to those big specials, but it might be a little bit safer, a little bit easier for you. But yeah, if you have a Serpent, offensive Serpent is incredibly underrated. People still think of him primarily as a defender, but he is one of my favorite attackers in the game currently. One last thing about Serpent in this fight, that true focus buff that he gets is going to turn off the falter from her dazzling dash. So you can safely intercept Dazzler in this fight as long as you have that true focus buff. And then I think you still do have to worry about the root, of course, and if you block her while she has that dazzling dash, she is still going to stun you through her block because it's not a special attack. He's only stun immune during special attack. So yeah, Serpent, best option here. If you have him, use him. Otherwise, one of the alternates should do just fine. Alright, moving on to fight number 3, we have Lady Deathstrike. This is another fight that in the first 2 quests was very long, very, very tedious. Knull makes this fight much more palatable because he has that ability to remove her armor-ups with his medium attacks, and he does a crap ton of damage with his special attacks. So you can kind of use like your favorite Knull rotation in this fight and you're going to be just fine. With him, you really only have to worry about keeping your power from being removed with that power removal node. So what I was trying to do at first here with Knull is go for like the maximum corruption duration with the special 3. And then from there kind of trigger a big special 2 with her armor down. And that did a nice chunk. You can, again, use your preferred Knull rotation. Some people like to spam special 1s. Any rotation is safe, again, as long as you're using those specials when her armor is down. Watch out for her special 1, although without her armor, those ruptures are going to do very, very little damage, so taking a special 1 to the face is definitely not the end of the fight. Also, since you'll be healing up from that Torment debuff, you can recoup a lot of that health as well. Not much else to say about this fight with Knull. He really does make this probably as easy as it gets, and makes the duration of the fight a lot less lengthy than what it was in the previous 2 quests. Couple of other really good options here. Crossbones, really, really good. If you are a good Crossbones player, you can probably heavy counter her special attacks, keep your Furies up, and just, kind of turn off all of her stuff. With Gladiator, you want to spam the special 2. If you have a high Sig Gladiator, you should be able to keep her armor ups off long enough for you to kind of cycle special 2s. If you aren't able to do that, and she does get an armor up back, you're going to have to stick to the special 3. Which is kind of a bummer, but stay aggressive with him, keep the armor up off of her for as long as you can, or you really risk, triggering her regen and triggering her unstoppable on your specials. But Knull, as you can see, he's doing like nice chunks of damage with his special attacks, and is definitely the best option for this tag restriction, I think. Alright, next up, the last time you'll have to fight a big Enchantress like this, until the next content comes out, I guess. So with Enchantress, just a very big Enchantress, a lot of health, a lot of attack, and her special attacks will be unblockable, so don't push her to the special 2 because you can't dex it, and you kind of need to learn the full dex on the special 1. Pretty much anybody from this tag pool is going to be fine here. So I'm using Photon just because I really like using Photon. She has a lot of good damage. Luke Cage Blade will be just fine. It's not so much who you use in this fight, it's really how you use them and how you learn to dex that special 1. Now, Photon has one big advantage, in my opinion, over Luke Cage, over Blade, over any other option that you want to bring to this fight, and that is that her medium attacks by default cannot miss, and in pure light form she can't miss at all. So one of the most annoying things about playing against an Enchantress is when she triggers that untouchable on one of her green spells, and you're trying to punish a heavy, and your attacks keep missing, and you're just sitting there waiting for the untouchable spell to expire. But with Photon, you can just bait out the heavy like I'm doing here, and your medium attack is guaranteed to remove that spell, which is really, really nice. You can also just do like a medium intercept, remove those orange spells first, and it's safe as well. You're not going to miss. So yeah, Photon really, really good for this. My special 1 dex is less than good. It's about 50-50, I think, at this point. I think I got used to having that extra dex window with Quicksilver in quest number 2. I think this fight ended up only being 1 revive with me with Photon. I know it looks like I'm gonna die pretty quickly here because I'm already at half health and she is still pretty high, but like Photon's damage with those passive Furies in pure light form ramps up pretty well. And with that Matador node giving you access to more specials than you would otherwise have, I really found Photon to be quite enjoyable for this fight. I think I get her down to maybe like 10 or 15% health before I finally just end up dying from like chip damage. But really, really good first run with Photon. Really, really pleased with my performance in this fight. I really do appreciate this fight for like forcing me to learn, or at least attempt to learn, the special 1 decks. And I think like when I fight Enchantress in content from now on, I will probably be more likely to just attempt the full decks of the special 1 rather than just taking the full thing on the block. And I think that's going to be beneficial for me in other content, in other game modes, kind of as I go on. Now, Luke Cage is the first alternate I have listed there. Class advantage. Luke Cage is exceptionally good against Mystic champions with those concussions, and he's got that the protection of the indestructible on his Sig, so you can tank a few of those special ones, and the hit damage won't affect you. If she places those passive damage over time effects, obviously those are going to hurt you, but I think his survivability in this fight is really, really good. You can keep the debuffs off on her longer with the Debilitate from your heavy attack. Use medium for light combos for maximum exhaustion. The more debuffs you have on her, the more your damage is going to climb. So really, really strong option for this fight as well. The other alternate I have listed here is Blade, and like I said earlier, pretty much anybody is going to work for this fight. Blade is an underrated champion. He has the potential to dish out a lot of really good damage. You can choose whatever special you want, special 1, special 2. Blade's big advantage, I think, in this fight is that you can consume the power to heal yourself, which should increase your survivability by quite a bit if you are taking a lot of those special 1s to the face. So Blade, another champion that I would recommend if you are really struggling with this fight. But any of these 3 champions are going to be fine. And again, like I said at the start, it's really how you play this fight more than who you use. Alright, moving on, let's talk about Thor Ragnarok. I'm using Medusa for this fight, but there are a lot of really strong options in this pool. You can really just use anybody from the 2017 pool, because again, it's kind of like how you play this fight. Like there are abilities from some champions that will make this fight a little bit easier, but again, you really just want to manage his combo, manage his power gain. Now, Medusa in this fight cost me, I think, 1 revive, and your success in this fight might vary depending on the AI that you get. I had a really good tempo going with Medusa in this fight, and then I remember at some point he just kind of turtles up after like gaining the power gain, and then he gets his special 3, and once he gets the special 3, it's pretty much over with anybody. But your mileage may vary with whoever you use. Medusa has really, really good damage with those Fury buffs. Her intercepting is so smooth, and once you get the true accuracy up with Armor Shattered, you can safely intercept him without worrying about his auto block, and that'll help you manage his combo should end up triggering fewer power gains. But yeah, Medusa just really strong option. Loads of damage. Those bleeds ticking him down while you have armor shatter up is just really nice. And again, like I said a moment ago, this is more like how you play this fight rather than who you use. Just remember to bait out a heavy before you ever knock him down, and that's going to put that brace passive on cooldown. And it's on cooldown for quite a bit, so you can usually get in like 2, maybe 3 specials if you're like really pushing it before you kind of have to do some more heavy baiting. Alternate options, again, pretty much anybody from this pool works. Some good ones I want to mention. Angela is really strong, has excellent damage. You may want to save Angela for the arcade fight later on the path, though. That's what I ended up doing, but she's really good. Gwenpool is also very good for this fight. She was made available for free, I think, last December during that like champion celebration event where we got like 10 champs for free. Doesn't need the dupe here, but if you do have her duped, her ability accuracy reduction should turn off the auto block from Thor above 50 hits in her combo, so you can get a little bit of an advantage that way. As you can see here, just what I talked about. As soon as Thor gets that special 3, if he turtles up, the fight is pretty much over. But Medusa, an exclusive champion, not available right now. Angela available via the incursions pool. So if you have some artifacts saved up, she's definitely worth going for. Gwenpool, I think pretty much everybody should have. So, but like I said a couple times already, pretty much anybody from the 2017 pool will work fine for this fight. Alright, speaking of Angela, let's talk about this arcade fight, and similar to a lot of fights we've talked about in this guide so far and the previous guide, this fight is a lot more about how you play it than who you use. Now Angela, I think, is the only like really decent auto block counter in this pool, but I also recall that her auto block counter doesn't always work consistently against arcade, so I really didn't want to chance it. And for me personally, without Odin on the team to give her those extra buffs, I really did want to keep one eye on her buffs at all time to make sure that I had enough to turn off the auto block consistently. Now in this fight, I'm playing it with Angela pretty much the same way I played it with Serpent in the previous fight, and I would recommend you do this with whoever you use in this fight. And that is, you want to be pushing arcade to a special 2 consistently, and then when you bait out the special 2, you block that last saw blade or Dexit, and he's going to gain tokens, and then from there you want to bait out a heavy from him, and you want to counter it after the first hit with your heavy, just like I'm doing here, and that will remove his tokens and turn off his auto block, and then you can just kind of rinse and repeat here. Now, I like Angela for this fight because she has really decent access to regen. Her survivability in this fight for me was actually much better than Serpent's was in the previous quest, so I really like her. If you are an ouchie user, you can definitely use Angela for this fight safely with ouchies, and she will pretty much have a permanent regen buff for the entirety of the fight, which, you're going to go faster because you're dealing more damage, and your survivability is still going to be pretty high as well. So talking about some of the other options here, Captain Marvel is poison immune, so really good for arcade. If you don't know like the fancy special 1 decks, you can use Captain Marvel and still bait the special 2. Her damage is really high once she gets into that binary ignition mode, so exclusively available though, so not a lot of people have access to Captain Marvel. Saw a bunch of folks using White Tiger for this fight. White Tiger I probably wouldn't recommend as like my first option, but she is in the basic pool, so she's pretty commonly available. And if you have her, she would be a pretty decent option if you play to like bait the special 2. Guillotine 2099 is probably my second recommended option. She has the poison immunity. Her damage is very good. With her, I would recommend that you use the lifesteal pre-fight because you are going to get up to 100 combo in this fight pretty easily as long as you don't get hit. So you can start, stealing some of your life back and increasing your survivability in that way. Yeah, Angela, again, I talked about her in the previous clip. Available via the incursions pool, so not everybody has access to her, but she is available if you have the artifacts. White Tiger and Guillotine both in the basic pool. But again, I want to stress here that no matter who you use, it's really how you play this fight, more than relying on the abilities of anyone that you are using. Alright, moving on to the leader, and this is a fight that, in hindsight, I wish I had chosen somebody else other than Void for. And I know it's weird to hear me say that in particular, but I sat at the champ selection screen. I have a bunch of really decent options. I have Sentinel, I have Red Skull, and I ended up going with Void simply because he was at rank 4. And the reason I don't think I would recommend Void for this fight is because his special 1, which is normally the special that you want to be using in any fight with him, it kind of holds him outside of the close encounters range. So you'll notice here when I'm using the special 1, while he's kind of like charging up that energy ball thing, he's taking a lot of degen damage. So it's very difficult if you want to play Void with special 1 to kind of like net positive health via the close encounters node. So at some point during this fight, and I do take a death here just because I make a lot of mistakes, but at some point when I'm doing this fight, I pretty much stick to like special 2s only, because the special 2 will leave you closer to leader a lot more often than the special 1 will. So, you know, you're kind of leaving like a lot of damage on the table, being unable to have like very good uptime with Fear of the Void. So yeah, the allure of using a rank 4 got to me here. If you have a Void, I would probably recommend you use somebody else, unless he's like your only option. Now, Sentinel I do have here listed as the alternate option, number 1, but I feel like Sentinel kind of has a similar issue, because his special 2, when he fires off those like rockets, he is going to be far away from leader for like the duration of that special attack. So if you're using Sentinel, like, you're going to be doing a lot of damage with that special 2, but I also feel like you're going to be taking quite a bit of degen damage from that as well. Now, that being said, with Sentinel, you also have the ability to like refresh your health completely with a special 3. So, you know, taking a little bit of degen on that special 2 is not as big of a deal as it is for somebody like Void. Other alternate options, Killmonger, just really, really good. My Killmonger is only at rank 1 currently, but I probably would have kind of reached for him if I had him ranked up. I know a lot of people use Killmonger. A lot of people use Domino as well. You get lucky with some of those critical bleeds. You're going to be dealing out some nice damage here. Last option is Red Skull, who is probably who I should have gone into this fight with for my roster. Now, with Red Skull, remember, you don't really want to parry in this fight, which means you have to bait a lot of heavies just until you kind of get like a good cycle going. So you may not have as good access to your armor ups as you might otherwise have in a different fight, at least until you get like a nice rhythm going and you're baiting out a special 1 from leader, you're using your full combo, you're using your special attack, you're using your striker to kind of keep him in that loop where you don't have to take any blocked hits. But Red Skull, you know, you fire off that special 2. Again, similar problem to Sentinel and Void, where the special 2 is going to leave you far away from leader for a few seconds, which means you will be taking some extra degen. So, you know, that's just kind of the trade-off with most champs in here. With Killmonger, I don't really think it's going to be that much of an issue. Maybe not so much with Domino either, but you just kind of have to play aggressive. Nailing the full special 1 dex is going to go a long way towards keeping that regen on you in this fight. And make sure that when you complete your combos, you are completing them and holding block, and then you are ready for him to either, you know, try and attempt a heavy attack, or you're ready to dex that first of the special attack. You want to stay close to him as long as possible. So kind of don't make maybe the mistake that I did here and use Void. Go with one of the other alternates that I have listed instead. Alright, let's talk about the fight that'll probably be the most difficult for people in this quest to have a champ for, and this is the Bullseye fight. And the restrictions for this fight are a champion from this year, 2025. Now, there are a couple of really good options in the 2025 pool for this fight. Okoye, Bastion, Gentle, all fantastic for this fight, and really, really good at countering Bullseye in general. However, we are only in June of 2025, which means there are only like a handful of champions in the 2025 pool. Now, I think that there will be additional good options for this fight available later on this year, but if you aren't like, you know, actively pursuing brand new champions, either from the featured crystal or from the Titan pool, your options for this fight might be severely limited, and that is going to be a problem for a lot of players. So if you don't have one of the 3 best options for this fight, I would probably recommend just like waiting a couple months and seeing like if another really good option comes out, or pushing for somebody from that Titan pool, because there's a lot of current champions in that pool as well. Now, with all that being said, let's talk about who I am using for this fight, which is Okoye. My Okoye is only rank 2. I do have Gentle. I just pulled him from the Titan pool the other day, but he's only rank 1 unduped. Don't really know how to use him that well, so I went with a champion that I'm kind of more comfortable with. This was one revive with Okoye at rank 2. If you're better with her, if you have her ranked up higher, she can definitely solo this fight. So my strategy with Okoye is to bait out heavies at the start of the fight, and that's just so I can transfer the cruelties from Bullseye to myself. That's going to obviously increase my damage, but also decrease the chip damage from him, which I think is really, really important in this fight. Okoye places that ensnared debuff whenever she dexes, so she has a really good uptime on an evade counter. So offensively, I'm trying to push him to the special 2 as much as possible. Right there, I was hard blocking, and he threw that special 1 into my block. That's so annoying when that happens. But yeah, try and push him to the special 2. You'll take a lot less chip damage, a lot less bleed damage from the special 2 if you were able to push him consistently to that. And then after you throw the special 2, if you have an opportunity to heavy to refresh all of your debuffs, that's where your big damage is going to come from. Other than that, Okoye, just a really, really strong champion. The only thing you want to watch out for in this fight with her is that when Bullseye uses a special attack, he is going to purify that ensnared debuff. So you do need to watch out for, after the special 2, you probably have to go ahead and dex. Or if you're dexing, the hits in the special 2, you're just going to be reapplying that debuff. But, just keep an eye on that debuff. Make sure that you are refreshing it whenever possible. Otherwise, you're going to have a really, really bad time. Gentle, like we mentioned earlier, just a really, really good option for this fight as well. He's got that bleed immunity. Whenever he triggers the bleed immunity, he's going to have that pursuit passive. So he will also have like a really good uptime of an evade counter against Bullseye. And it won't be a debuff, so Bullseye won't be able to like purify it. So a lot easier to maintain than even Okoye in this fight. Bastion, I saw a couple of other people use for this fight as well. Also has access to Pursuit. I think he has immunity or resistance to bleed, so again, a lot of chip damage is going to be reduced by him in this fight. So with any of these 3 options, push Bullseye to the special 2 as much as you can, and you're going to survive a lot longer in this fight. If you are stuck using somebody else, there are other, okay 2025 champs for this fight. Spider-Woman is probably not going to be very useful because Bullseye reduces the power sting potency. Lumatrix, who you might have, could also work. Like, he's bleed immune, but he's not going to be able to evade unless you wait out the true accuracy, and his invisibility will be totally useless in this fight. If you have Dark Phoenix, she can also work with a couple revives, just on the strength of her Nova Flames and the immortality at the end of the fight. But yeah, one of these 3 champs are your best bet for taking out Bullseye. Alright, moving on to Human Torch, one of the easier fights in this quest, consistently in every chapter. So we'll briefly cover the nodes again. You should probably be used to this fight by now. You're going to start off in a physical damage mode that's going to override all of your attacks with physical damage, and that'll prevent Human Torch from gaining any smolders and preventing you from incinerating yourself with energy attacks and preventing him from moving into Nova form. Now you will have to heavy eventually because of the protection node, but once you do so, you just want to heavy again immediately after to put yourself back into physical mode. Otherwise, again, if you allow yourself to get stuck in energy mode, you're going to die pretty quickly afterwards. Other than that, the fight is very, very straightforward. You want to make sure that you use a special attack pretty quickly after getting a bar of power. Otherwise, he is going to get that debuff immunity, and especially with somebody like Luke here, who relies heavily on debuffs for his damage output, triggering that debuff immunity is really going to hurt him in this fight. I do think I make a mistake and do it like once or twice in this fight, and it ends up hurting me. I think I do end up taking a death in this fight just because I make too many mistakes. I think I do trigger a special 3 by accident against Torch, so he ends up in Nova form. I'm taking damage, backed up into the corner. I just can't clutch it out. But just don't make the mistakes that I make, and you'll be fine. Alright, let's talk through the alternates that I have listed here. The first one is Superior Iron Man, who was really, really good for this fight. And I kind of wish that I would have just given him a shot at rank 2 over Luke Cage here. So, Superior Iron Man's damage, really, really strong. He is easily able to get all of those buffs. And the more buffs that he has, he reduces the duration of Incinerates, which means that you have an extra safety net from Human Torch's damage output. Just really, really strong. Single hit heavy, which is really nice. So you heavy to remove protection, switch yourself into energy mode, and it's just one more hit to switch yourself back into physical mode. So really, really good option for this fight if you have a Superior Iron Man. And then the other option I have listed here is Deadpool X-Force. Now, Human Torch does have bleed immunity in this fight. However, the way that Deadpool's new kit is designed, he actually is able to apply bleed, like the Spleed debuffs, to bleed immune opponents. So Deadpool will still be able to get to like his big damage output in this fight, despite there being bleed immunity on the fight. So with him, just play it the way that you would normally, build up to close to 3 bars of power, fire off that special 2, fire off that special 1, and you're going to deal a huge burst of damage to Human Torch. Any of these options are really, really good. I can't remember off the top of my head what other champs are in 2015, but again, pretty much you're sensing a theme here in this quest. Pretty much anybody in this pool will probably work as long as you know how to play the fight. And by now, this is your 3rd time through the quest, you probably know what to expect and how to play it. Alright, let's talk through this Serpent for the last time here. Again, not too much going on in this fight. Any Serpent counter will work. Obviously, if you spend time away from him, his power gain is going to be paused. That's like the big danger in this fight. Now, Kushala, really, really strong option. Probably the best overall option for this fight. You can nullify his Fury, which he cannot regain. So you're going to really limit the amount of damage that he's able to do if you're able to remove that Fury. You want to parry as much of the hits in his special attack as possible. That's going to keep your blessings up. You can alternate between the special 2 and the special 1. You have a lot of opportunity for really strong damage output in this fight. Special 1 is going to nullify the power gain buffs, obviously, so I would focus more on that than the special 2, but if you let yourself be pushed to the special 2 on accident, it's definitely not the end of the world, and you're going to be doing just fine. Also, not a lot of opportunities in this fight I found for intercepts, so I found it really difficult to keep like all 9 of her blessings up. But, you know, either way, she still dishes out an incredible amount of damage. You see we have 16 incinerates, and we're doing 10k per second in incinerate damage. So just Kushala is so good. Punching up here, rank 3 to a rank 4 Serpent. Just an incredible champion here. Let's talk about the alternate options here. Neither of these are really as good as Kushala, in my opinion. So Werewolf by Night really has no options for the power gain in this fight. He's an okay option for Serpent in general, but you're going to be using Werewolf or even Kindred pretty much only if you don't have access to a Kushala. Now Kindred, a lot of people have ranked up just for defense. I do think he would be a pretty good option for this fight, maybe even a little bit better than Werewolf. So with Kindred, he has access to those atrophy passives, which are going to reduce the duration of buffs. Now he is still susceptible to having those power gain buffs paused if he's far away from Serpent, but if they trigger when you're close to Serpent, with those 3 atrophies, they're not going to last very long, which means the chances of him having a buff that's available to be paused are going to be much lower than they are with any other champ. Now obviously his damage is not as good as somebody like Kushala or Werewolf, but he is, you know, not going to be a bad option as like a last resort. Now the rest of the champions in the 2023 pool, none of them are exceptionally good at countering Serpent here. You notice I picked out like the only 3 mystics from 2023. If you are forced to use somebody else from the 2023 pool, it's probably going to cost you several revives because there's just no way for you to counter the power gain on this fight. I think for me with Kushala, this ended up being 1 revive. I think I pushed him to immortality and then died from like a special 3. I can't remember exactly what happened, but right there I took a special to the block. So yeah, there we go. that's probably what happened. I just made a couple mistakes and ended up dying. But, you know, you can definitely solo this fight with Kushala if you are a little bit better player than I am. Alright, getting close to the end, let's talk about Spiral one more time. This is the fight that I used the most revives on in this quest, and I think the second most revives overall. Spiral, I just really struggle with playing her. Like, there's nothing special about this particular fight. I'm just so bad at dexing her special 1. And I like outright refuse to just take it on the block, because like I'm not going to learn how to dex it if I just block it. So I know I manage it more often, I think, than I had in the previous 2 quests. But anyways, so you want to use a Wakandan champ for this fight. Your options are, you know, kind of limited here. Storm is my highest ranked Wakandan champ. I have Black Panther Civil War and Killmonger. And also Shuri at rank 2, rank 1. Storm is at rank 3. And I figured that I could potentially just nuke down Spiral with like big specials and keep my prowess paused with the occasional heavy. So like medium light on one combo, heavy on another, and then I could kind of keep my prowesses paused long enough for me to build up to like a big special 2 or a big special 3. And that mostly worked. But again, you know, my survivability in this fight is pretty low just because I repeatedly take special 1s to the face or special 2s to the face, and Storm's health pool not the highest, very, very, you know, fragile champion. So, but like Storm's damage output, if you get a couple crits on that special 2, you are doing some nice damage to her. The other problem I frequently have with Spiral is kind of what you saw there, and that is that she really likes to toss those blades and throw a special like when you're walking up to her. So I kind of had to like teach myself to be constantly ready to block the blades, because like they move too slowly for me to consistently get a dex off on them. So like when she has the blades available, I'm either trying to like wait out the blades themselves or just like expecting her to throw them like at any moment. And if I went into this fight a 4th time, I would probably just try and block all the special attacks, because like, you know, I ended up using I think 3 revives with Storm on this fight, and I just, you know, I just can't, my brain cannot click with fighting Spiral, with dexing the special 1 and special 2 here. You can just see me repeatedly taking specials to the face. But yeah, Storm, she's a fine option. Black Panther Civil War is the first alternate I have listed. Another champion who can work really well with the playstyle required for this fight, where you're, you know, hitting into her and then backing off, and then you're heavy countering into the special 2 for like really, really big damage. So Black Panther Civil War, really, really good option for this as well. Killmonger, if you didn't already use him for the leader fight, he's also a good option for this fight. And then Shuri, I saw TJ use Shuri, and I asked him like how that fight worked with her, because Spiral does reduce the duration of shock debuffs with her fervors. However, she cannot reduce the duration of shock passives, so you will have to apply the shock passes with Shuri, like via your basic attacks. He said it was like a safe fight, but like really, really long and kind of tedious with her. So if you have a Shuri ranked up, she can work for this fight, but just expect all of your damage to come from the G-crits and the shock passes. Don't expect her shock debuffs to ever stick. Alright, let's talk about Dust one more time. Last fight before the boss, and I'm going in here with Purgatory. This was like a last-minute audible for me. I originally had Gladiator marked down for myself, and I was going to use Purgatory for THANOS, but then I swapped at the last second to Purgatory here. Now, the reason I wanted to use Purgatory is because I felt like her Soul Neutralize was going to be really, really clutch in this fight. So every time you gain a bar of power, you place a 10% permanent Neutralize passive on the defender, so that in a long fight like this, eventually you're going to get those up to 10, and you're going to have a 100% guaranteed buff prevention. And in this fight, being able to totally prevent the armor up buffs from triggering is really, really helpful, and that's kind of why I made that last-minute swap. So not having the armor ups triggering on her means that you don't ever have to parry to nullify them, which means that you are limiting her ability to go unblockable as well, which is really, really nice. Now, one thing I would warn you about, and it ended up being kind of like a big mistake for me with Purgatory, is that I should have taken off the Ghost Rider relic. And if you were planning on using Purgatory for this fight, you should choose a different relic. And you're going to notice here that when I use my special 2, the Ghost Rider relic actually places a debuff on Dust, and that's going to actually cause her to go unblockable, which means that I can't really consistently push her up to her special 2 because the special 2 dex while she's unblockable is really, really difficult. If you don't have the Ghost Rider relic, you can keep tempo up a little bit better in this fight because you can dex out of the special 2 and punish it. You can't really do that with the special 1. So like after the special 1, I kind of have to like bait out heavies, which is, you know, increasing my chip damage, increasing the chances of a sand debuff on me. So yeah, just something that you should be concerned about there. Now, while you're in a Demonic Rampage, you can consume a little bit of your power with a second medium to place an Incinerate debuff on Dust. If you end up with some sand on you, that's a quick and easy way for you to get some of the sand off of you. In general, though, you want to stick with that special 2 in Demonic Rampage. That gives you the big Fury, it gives the big degen. If you need to recoup some health, the special 1 in Demonic Rampage regens you for a portion of the damage, so you can heal up a little bit that way. I think I also had a lot of problems with lag in this fight, and I think at the end of this fight it was 1 revive for me. I think lag ends up being what like contributes to my death here. So you could definitely solo this fight with Purgatory without the Ghost Rider relic. Again, I would recommend you take that off. But she has just so much damage, and being able to fully prevent that armor up buff is just really, really nice. Alternate options here. Gladiator, again, he works just fine, like especially if you have him at high sig. That vigilance buff that he gets is going to prevent the armor for a while, and if you focus on using his special 2, applying those incinerates is going to be useful. That reapplies your vigilance, and again, he has the ability to prevent the armor up a lot, but definitely not as consistently as somebody like Purgatory does. Gladiator, though, his damage is just otherworldly, and if you play him correctly without hitting into her block, you're still going to be able to ramp up his confidence, and just his basic attacks can be hitting for so much. Last option I saw people using is Shathra. I don't have a lot of experience with Shathra myself. She does have the ability to nullify a buff where possible. I don't think her atrophy really does much in this fight because the armor ups that Dust gets are permanent, so you will be kind of reliant on parrying her to remove them if you can't consistently push her to the special 2 and, you know, keep resetting that armor up timer. But Shathra can work in a pinch. Her damage output is very good. You know, being able to steal Dust's power and launch an unblockable special 2 is going to be really, really nice as well. But Purgatory, I think, probably the best overall option for this fight. Again, kind of a theme in this entire quest is a lot of the best options for these fights are champions that aren't currently available right now. Purgatory is one of those champs. She's not in the basic pool. She's not in any crystal right now. So if you don't have her, I would probably, you know, pivot to Gladiator and just try to get him to work. Alright, last but certainly not least, one more go at this Deathless Thanos boss. I'm going to go in here with America Chavez. I actually ended up getting the solo with Chavez, which I was incredibly proud of. So initially I had myself marked down for Purgatory with this fight for similar reasons to why I ended up using her for Dust. So I thought that, you know, the Soul Neutralize would be really helpful at preventing those Fury buffs that he gets from his Special 1, because those make his Special 1 very, very painful, make the chip damage very, very painful as well. But when I used Purgatory for Dust, I had to pivot and ended up going with Chavez over Rintrah, who I also had available. Now, the appeal of using Chavez in this fight for me over Rintrah, I think, is just her play style for how this fight goes. Like, Rintrah can keep those Fury buffs off of Thanos as well with his Neutralize, but I feel like his burst damage potential is a lot lower than Chavez's. In addition, the orange dimension reduces the potency of Thanos' Fury buffs. So you can see, like, I'll take a hit from the Special 1 to the face here, or maybe I have already, and you can see it does, like, very little damage, because the potency of his buffs can actually be inverted with 3 of those orange dimensions. So with her, I'm trying to focus on, you know, keeping 1 or more of the orange dimensions up at all times, building up to a big Special 2, and then either using an orange dimension for the extra burst damage, or using the blue dimension to heal up some extra health here. So you'll see me taking this fight very slowly, very intentionally, kind of sticking to medium heavies, or medium light combos. I'm also doing a much better job, I think, in this run of managing that reverse controls timer. And I think in the previous 2 quests, my biggest issue was having that timer swap in the middle of a special where I was like forced to guess between, you know, a hit hitting me or the timer going off first. And then I was, you know, always making the wrong guess and taking a ton of extra damage that way. In this fight, I am being more intentional with like holding block if I see that the timer is about to swap. And that kind of forces him to hit into my block or attempt a heavy. And that, more often than not, gave me enough time to let the timer swap, and that gave me a full duration of a timer to dodge the special attack. And I can manage it easily if it's, you know, all reverse controls or all normal controls, but like my brain sometimes breaks when it switches in the middle of a special attack. So I would recommend trying that if you're also struggling with this fight. So right there, you saw me take like a special 1 to the face. It did very little damage because I had 3 orange blessings up, and his furies are basically doing nothing. So, you know, Chavez, very, very tanky. For a fight where the defender has access to a lot of fury buffs, her ability to invert the potency of those buffs is super clutch. And she also has access to a decent amount of regen as well if you need to top her up. But yeah, other than that, it's a pretty straightforward fight. A lot of good options in the dimensional being pool here. If you didn't use Kushala on the Serpent, she's also very good for this fight. She also can keep the Furies off of Thanos. She can also nullify his Energized buff, which is really, really nice. And Kushala's playstyle, like parry, medium light, parry, heavy, also lends itself pretty well to this fight as well. Shothra, very, very good option here as well. Reduces the duration of those Furies. Power Steal is really nice because he's always going to have a lot of power available to him. Purgatory, again, eventually in this fight, once you've built up enough of those neutralizes, you are going to prevent him from getting those Fury buffs completely and can dish out a lot of really, really nice damage with that special too. I am not totally clear how easy it is to get her into Demonic Rampage in this fight against Thanos when you're having to play like very intentionally with shortened combos. If you used Purgatory for this fight, let me know in the comments below kind of how you played it. I'm pretty curious how that fight works with her. Rintrah is the last option I have listed here. He's fine for this fight, I'm sure. Like, his neutralizes are going to keep the Fury buffs off of Thanos as long as you stay aggressive. He won't be able to prevent that Energized buff since it triggers at the start of the fight. And like Rintrah's playstyle really lends itself to like taking a lot of hits while you have them, or you have yourself rooted with them in the corner. And I feel like pushing Thanos repeatedly to his special 2 is not going to be very conducive to having like a really good fight with Rintrah. In addition, like I feel like his burst damage very dependent on getting that like unicorn SP2 crit, and that never happens. But Rintrah is also very much a tank. He can take a lot of punishment in this fight, so if he is your best option, it's not a bad one to have either. But any of these champions that I've mentioned here are going to do pretty well in this fight. And again, you know, I've said this a million times in this video, you can probably use pretty much anybody in this pool, and it's really about how you play it. Are you comfortable with the reverse controls? Are you comfortable managing his unstoppable? And if both of those answers are yes, then anybody in the dimensional being pool will work. That's going to do it for this guide series. And again, I sincerely hope that these guides were helpful to you in completing this content. They're a lot of work. It's a lot of talking, like 3 hours of talking. So again, I hope they were helpful. If they are, please remember to share them with your friends, with your alliance mates, with anybody who is thinking about jumping into these quests, or anybody who is struggling with them as well. Remember to hit like, hit subscribe if you aren't subscribed already. And as always, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you again next time.